Today I'm in West Norwood Cemetery, and as you can see, it's a very busy part of the city of London, just on the outskirts of the city center. But we're talking about legacies, and we're going to look at a couple of legacies of people who are buried here that I think are going to interest you. So let's just go through the gate here and see what we find. This is not the person we're here to see, but if we're going to talk about legacies, it's worth noting that this is the gravesite of Hiram Maxim. Maxim was the inventor of the modern machine gun. The weapons that he produced and knockoff versions of it killed more people during the First World War than artillery shells did. At the Battle of the Somme, for instance, which took place in 1916, 21,000 British soldiers were killed with the German equivalent, and this is the man who invented it. There was a poem that speaks of the confidence of the British in battle, in which they say, "We have the Maxim and they do not." Maxim was an atheist, it's interesting to note, and he said that he was in Vienna trying to sell an electric light bulb which he had introduced, when someone said, if you really want to make money, find a more efficient way to slaughter human beings. Maxim put his ingenuity to work, and he invented smokeless gunpowder, and then he invented a machine gun that didn't require cranking the way a Gatling gun did. And so it's just the carnage was incredible, because people were still trying to use the bayonet. You didn't get across the field when you were faced with a Maxim machine gun. But this is not the guy that we're here for. We're going to continue on through the cemetery. Speaking of legacies, this is a rich one right here, and it's a reason why we've come to West Norwood Cemetery. This is the tomb of Charles Spurgeon. Charles Spurgeon, who was born in 1834 and died in 1892, and who preached in Victorian Britain through some of the most tumultuous years of empire. His career saw the Sepoy Mutiny in 1857 in India, which rocked the British Empire. In 1859, the publication of The Origin of Species by Charles Darwin. The American Civil War, which was not without effect in Britain, and also the rise of socialism. And yet throughout all of this, in the 1850s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, Charles Spurgeon had an extraordinarily successful career as a preacher, preaching to thousands. He very regularly preached to crowds of 10,000. Now, I know some of you, as you listen to me say that, you say, my church has 4 or 5 or 10,000 members in it. Very different from the time that we're talking about here. Spurgeon's church was the largest evangelical congregation in the world at its time. He was known on more than one occasion to preach to crowds, drawing crowds in excess of 25,000 people. Charles Spurgeon's legacy is a rich one, because even throughout all of the turmoil of the 19th century, he just faithfully preached the gospel. And his legacy continues to live even to this day. I'm a huge fan of Charles Spurgeon. If you ever come to La Bastide, we give to our guests his morning and evenings devotional, which is wonderful. His his sermons you can find online. His writings fill up some 50 to 70 volumes. I guess that depends on the size of the print to determine how many volumes that is. But the point is, Charles Spurgeon's legacy is enormous, and it changed the empire and it changed the world. Now we're going to consider another legacy from the same time period. Here we are at the tomb of Karl Marx. Karl Marx, whose philosophy has been institutionalized all over the world, and in the 20th century alone led to the deaths of more than 130 million people. You'd think by now that people would know that the socialist philosophies which he advocated would be would be ideas that no one would want to honor or pay homage to. And yet, as you can see, people come here and they lay flowers and they hold vigils, and they come from all over the world to pay homage to this dead maniac. Marx's legacy stands in sharp contrast to the legacy of Charles Spurgeon, who we considered before. Spurgeon, who lived from 1834 to 1891, and Marx from 1818 to 1883, their most productive years were at roughly the same time, the high point of the Victorian era, the 1850s, the 1860s, the 1870s. And while they never met, their philosophies are opposites. Socialism, according to Dostoevsky, is effectively atheism masquerading as political philosophy. And Spurgeon, for his part, taught that men did have a soul, and that soul belonged to God, their creator, and that it was their ultimate calling to seek him, to follow him, to know him. So here we have Karl Marx. What a tragic and awful legacy.